Let's move on to the last session of this panel. From Zeynep Yazıcıoğlu, Halu, and Sümeyye, Taşdelen, first year architectural design studio, experimental teaching approaches in online education, pedagogical approach instead of pedagogical approach. Thank you so much. We'll be sharing with you some experimental experiences of ours in a class environment. So in the first half of this, we tried to explain whether or not we could use a method into different class environments. And yes, in the spring of 2020, distance learning, we tried to adapt to it right away like an emergency. But next to that, also since the 18th century, thanks to technology, we had different methods of education, distance education, like television, like radio, like letters, and also in the 1990s, with the internet and computers slowly coming to our lives, we had distance learning for so much already. And the universities and their respective faculties were so important in their role, for their role with this. And when we looked at the status quo, we thought that this was all a natural process, and this was a long time in coming. We took a approach to this perspective and questioned whether it was right or not. Yes, we had to face these situations very rapidly, instantly, due to the pandemic. But if you look at the data from the UN's 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, we already see that in the 2015 such things were assumed. The things were assumed that distance learning would have much more prevalent place, and as such, UN's preferred method of shared and flexible curriculum and education. When we put it under these terms, when we put into consideration that actually we are not only having children or teenagers, but we also have grown-ups in this new educational models, in this new educational model. So completely self-learning individual, a self-determined individual, and based on the very rapid rate of creating information, we see that we can only make such a student type possible if we can make them able to adapt to this rapidly growing environment and internet. And the pedagogical approach, we also see some other components other than a flexible curriculum. So one-on-one talks, one-on-one communication and negotiations, and also shared imagination and shared goals, also sharing of experience and reflecting of experience. These were all very important. We knew that these were already present in the pedagogical approach, and we offered that these could come true and hold true in a architectural studio as well. And on the other hand, on the learning steps of the pedagogical side, you had to have a skill-based design applications, and also reflective thinking, and so on and so forth. So in a short summary about the model based on these, we talked about whether or not we could offer a pedagogical approach in our architectural studio as well. And during this period, we were a department of that dated back to 3 years before, and we during this period we started preparing our infrastructure. We started to give students before they started the course about what kind of technological tools and equipments they would need. And before they even started their education, we tried to support their reading and their listening and their watching and their seeing capabilities with process-oriented approaches. And to this end, students in their first year studio, students learned about sketching, computer tools, and other methods. At least these are expected of the students, but we as instructors and decision makers, by saying that all students are the same and all students must have the same opportunities, we have used many different platforms to make access and participation much more easily obtained. And then we moved on to the topography scale. But these were all supplementing each other. So sketches, modeling, etc. We held analysis on almost all of them. So in the first one, we made them we made them practice these. Then we gave them motivation and feedback. And periodically, by using the same methods, we encourage students to always go back into a cycle of questioning. So we try to come up with a intellectual environment which they could utilize a third eye, an eye of a third party, and we encourage them to come up with their own designing proposals. And again, in support with this teaching method, also this learning process, in a year's time, we categorized the periods to 3 or 4 smaller parts, and this period-oriented approach encouraged students into believing that they were successful in different aspects.
And while determining them, the subjects of the model, we made sure that prejudice is prevented. So they started with unknown things after what they know, after setting what they know. So these had some self-esteem, some positive effect on self-esteem. When the thumb is included, they started to make models for the coordination. That was the purpose. And we have designed some presentation methods. In this part, I will be sharing some examples with you. It's designed by a student. The speaker cannot be heard. Spot Morrison photographing was used on the digital setting. These are such examples. Computer applications, mobile visuals, different digital settings were used together. That's what we encouraged. Their knowledge from technical drawing class was important as a basis. Digital and computer applications. About them, we made some briefs, talked about what they can do further. The speaker cannot be heard. Short courses took place with questions and answers. The designs that they have fetched, they reflected them on the platforms. So quite rich environment where peers learn from each other, different platforms were used, conventional, traditional methods were used, as well as contemporary methods. That's what we wanted to catch. So we encourage them to transit to more details. This is an example in what setting it is expressed. So the limits of digital platform can be used more. A context suggestion was needed. We negotiated it with the students. A desire to make a big house for a student. How can we handle it at a common context? This is an example. And all the things that we had, 3D models, videos, especially in the studies that we carried out in the second term, we let them free about methods, what they gained in the first term as skills. They used these skills in the second term. That's what we encouraged. All through the year, they used different methods with their skills. We handled our approaches in that manner without any architectural implications. And their motivations increased in this manner. This is a short video. When we came to the second term, which means the end of the year, they were able to produce a wide range of projects, and some were quite advanced. And the general students, the classroom in general, was able to adapt themselves to this process. That's what we have observed. Everybody code a platform that they liked. So from these perspectives, from methodological perspective, in order to sustain a natural transition, natural continuum, the spatial needs, technical infrastructure and equipment, number of students should be considered, as well as needs of the curriculum, continuity during the classrooms with a flexible curriculum, considering that students are adult individuals, digital platform and face-to-face and hybrid models. At early phases, they can get adapted to computer programs, computer drawing, handicap was prevented in this manner. Open space, use of open space is very important for universities. Project-based teaching can be more widespread. Equality of opportunities can be provided with online education. What are the negative aspects of distant education? Students may feel lost because of the high number of modules and high number of digital settings. They may feel like they're not able to manage their productions. Active participation was not easy to obtain. Exhaustion is another factor. So this is an important piece of data. Yes, that was my presentation. If everybody becomes a box, then how about the real spaces? How are we going to be evaluating them? Thank you very much for your patience.